Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Today is Thursday, March 5th, 2020. The time is 1:33 p.m. Thank you for your patience. We did have to start a little bit later. This is a special meeting to address Parks and Waterways considerations. I am calling this meeting to order. Attending are Commissioners Duncan and Filios. Commissioner Brooks is on his way in. It should be maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and he did ask that we begin anyway. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Hearing none. Okay, first item, proposed no-wake zone, Honeysuckle Bay, Hayden Lake Watershed District, potential action. Nick, would you like to lead us, please?
Thank you, Commissioner. Nick Snyder for the record. Commissioners, I know it's been some time, and that's why I wanted to have this meeting, just to get you up to speed on how it was left in terms of the proposal. So a gentleman by the name of Mr. Craig Ely, resident in Kootenai County, who lives on Hayden Lake, is proposed at our September meeting 2019, a proposed no-wake zone for Honeysuckle Bay. As part of that recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners, the Waterways Advisory Board and myself advised the commissioners that the maintenance and management and expense of any potential buoys should probably be part of one management package under the Hayden Lake Watershed District. The board might remember that we did an MOU, and for 14, those have still not been deployed. You might recall we're waiting for IDL to act on the illegal buoys before moving forward. But to have two different entities managing buoys on one lake, it doesn't make much sense. So the commissioners directed me to go to Hayden Lake Watershed District, have a conversation. We did that. I had requested that they send a letter to the Board of County Commissioners indicating that they either did or did not agree to do that. Should the county commissioners want to adopt a no-wake zone, they did send a letter affirming that they would in fact take on additional buoys, the cost, the maintenance. I explained that Kootenai County, or my recommendation to the commissioners, that Kootenai County would stay engaged.
I'm sorry, Steve is here. Steve Meyer is here.
Oh, excellent.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, hold on.
Good time.
Okay. Now, your meeting with the residents was back in the fall, wasn't it?
With the residents of,
The
we
Hayden Lake
attended
Watershed?
we
Attended there,
yeah, their annual
Hi
meeting.
there.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Have a seat.
Thank you. Hi, Leslie.
Hi.
Good timing, Steve. We're just talking about it right now, so
All right.
thanks for coming.
So
So,
anyway, go ahead, Nick.
yes, so the Hayden Lake Watershed District did in fact send us a letter, thank you, Steve, agreeing to participate in that. But it's been some time since we've met. I know that Sheriff Rec Safety has made a recommendation, Sergeant Plangus, Lieutenant Higgins. I don't want to speak on your behalf. What I recall, though, is that KCSO did support it conceptually.
We did, yes. We do support it.
Okay, and the Waterways Advisory Board did as well. However, we didn't have any details as to why it was proposed for Mr. Ely. We had, I think KCSO has made comments to the board at that follow-up meeting. The Waterways Advisory Board follow-up meeting at that time. However, I had asked Mr. Ely to put together some reasonings. Most of it relates to safety. He does cite, he attaches some reports from the sheriff's office. They're not very clear as to how that applies specifically, but this is intended for the board to review. But my recommendation would be that the board maybe advise, give some direction to get us back together, work out the details, bring it back, because we just kind of have some dots on a map where it might be. I think KCSO certainly should probably GPS those out, come back with something a little more concrete, and then make a recommendation. So this is more of an update, and to get some direction, would you like us to meet with Hayden Lake Watershed District, KCSO, and bring you an official sort of proposal on this item?
Yeah, go ahead, Leslie.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Because if we are going to go forward, obviously it's a public hearing, so we need to make sure that all the background work's done first.
Right. We want to bring in some good information to form a resolution.
Okay, so you've identified the segment in question for the no-wake zone?
Yes, well, Mr. Ely has, but
Okay.
it's important that KCSO and Parks and Waterways have an opportunity to understand exactly where those would go before we come forward, because council will want specific language
Yep.
for the resolution.
Okay, how much time do you need?
A couple weeks to schedule a meeting, get together, and come back and bring in a recommendation to the commissioners.
Okay.
Gentlemen, you okay with that? Okay,
You
let's,
okay with that?
okay,
I'm
let's
okay
do
with
it.
that,
I'll set it up, Commissioners. Thank you.
Okay, absolutely. Okay. So let's move on to item 2, which is a proposed waterways ordinance changes. And I guess we're looking at going into executive session with our attorney, is that correct?
I don't know, are there open record matters that you're gonna discuss first?
I believe, Nick Snyder for the record, I believe the intent was for the board to have some time for Q&A with counsel referencing the legal opinion provided on excessive wake, and with KCSO here, since they'll be the enforcement arm of that. I think that was the intent of the executive session.
Okay.
Okay.
All right,
Is there a
ready?
motion then? Yeah, absolutely.
I move we enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061D.
Second.
Commissioner Duncan?
Aye.
Chairman Philios?
Aye. Going into executive session with civil prosecuting attorney Jamila Holmes. Please excuse us, folks. This shouldn't take very long at all. Okay, so we're about to exit executive session. Is there a motion?
I move that we exit executive session with staff to proceed as discussed.
Second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan.
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye, and so we've exited executive session. Let's talk a little bit about any decisions or direction.
So the direction at this point is we feel that the definition put forward is not enforceable based on what KCSO has told us. But I think that we've come up with a couple more restrictive solutions than that definition. And KCSO has 2 weeks to do some mapping and some other information gathering to get it to legal so it can be presented to the board again, and then we will vote on going to a public hearing.
And by the way, the language that Leslie's referring to is the language that pertains specifically to excessive wake. Okay? And there was one other item, distance?
No, it's all in the mapping.
It's all in the mapping, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that's where we are now. So once again, KCSO will be back to us within 2 weeks, at which time we will prepare the language that will go forward to a public hearing. That's a 28-day notice, and it'll be in place in time and ahead of the boating season. Okay?
And Mr. Meyer, there's language in place for lakes, other bodies of water as well, not just the river.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so it's looking more, in general, more stringent. Let me leave it at that.
Across the county.
Yes,
Yeah.
countywide. Do you want to comment about the Marine Patrol hiring?
We have a pretty high success rate so far this year. It looks like we will be hiring as many deputies as we have funding, positions funded for, which is awesome because that hasn't happened in the last few years. But as of right now, we will even have people on a waiting list in case something does happen. We have people to fill those spots,
So how many do you have funded?
10 from
5 teams.
KCSO,
Five
five
teams.
teams, and then the additional
Support from
One,
both?
yeah, 2 bodies, I think it is.
two bodies from other agencies.
Post- yeah.
Post Falls.
Post Falls.
So
Yeah,
you'll
and
be able to use all 6 boats?
Well, we have 14, but yes, we will hopefully have 6 teams all summer long.
good. Thank you, guys.
Okay. All right. And so, all right, so we're moving forward. Like I said, it'll be in place before the boating season begins, assuming the public hearing goes fine. Yes, sir, Jim, go right ahead.
So just so I understand, you're proposing some definition of what an excessive wake is, right? Is that-
Not necessarily.
It's more restrictions. So I think you'll be pleased when the final language comes out.
You think you can make me happy?
No, actually, I don't.
I think so.
I think we
so.
can move in that direction.
Yeah, basically what it all comes down to, and we're not trying to be coy here, okay, because KCSO has a little bit more work to do, is getting to the point where whatever we do is enforceable. Because you can get into situations, especially when you're determining wake size, point of impact, where are you measuring, and that sort of thing, where it gets very, very difficult and very hard to measure, and of course harder even to enforce. And that's what we're dealing with, and that's what we're trying to boil down so it is in fact enforceable. Yeah.
So there is an Idaho state regulation. It's
Yes.
67, well, it's not the one that you guys got in the book, it's a different one. It's 6770-25, which is interference with navigation. And that basically says that if you're obstructing in any manner free passage on any waterway, here, I'll give you, I have it right here.
Got it? Okay.
It says that, basically if you're interfering with free passage on any waterway, you're in doing an obstruction. And my point is, once again, I'm on the river, I'm going 25 miles an hour in my boat. No, I go 20, I'm just saying I'm going 25, because I rarely go faster. And I cross the wake, a large wake, my boat physically leaves the water. It is 24-foot cobalt. What I have to do now is I have to power down every time I come across one of those power boats. That is a violation of the law. And if you can't enforce that, you can't enforce anything, okay? Because that's
And-
as clear as a bell.
And your point is well taken. Do you want to comment?
Yeah, if I can read the code.
Please.
I know which code he's talking
And
about.
I think you actually touched on it earlier, but go ahead, take a look at it.
It's not a code that we haven't enforced before, but
So if you have to get off plane and then get back up on plane, every time you see a wake surf boat, and everybody else is doing that, then how many times do you have to get back on plane? In addition to the wakes that's caused by the wake surf boats. And we do that every time now we get off plane.
You get off plane.
Oh, yeah, we have to. My son was sitting in the front,
Our
and I had to
current-
hold on to him because we were airborne.
Yeah.
our current SOPs are how we operate. This code is used usually when people moor, boat up together, anchor in areas of high traffic. A good example is we don't allow people to moor or anchor in the mouth of the Spokane River because it is such a confluence of vessels coming in and out of marinas, the lake on the river, if that makes sense. Because it interferes with the navigation. Boats going from A to B, they have to now go around somebody or they can't get around them because of where that vessel has positioned itself. Same thing at the entrance of marinas, boat ramps, that type of thing. You can't just park there because I either one can't get around you or I have to actually change my course to get around you, if that makes sense. That is currently how we, KCSO, use this. We don't interpret it as I have to change the speed of my vessel because of a wake.
Well, a court may not interpret that the same way.
And I'm not disagreeing with
pretty
that.
good.
There's
And that
currently-
could happen.
It
Um,
will
If
happen.
you get off plane.
Well, may I speak, Jim, you and I spoke about this, about the gross negligent operation code. I guess ultimately, if you feel that you have been violated in such a way of this law, then you can call us and we'll take a report and we will let you go to court and talk with the judge and make sure that, see if you're able to make them believe that your situation fits the code. Because we don't believe that it does. The code is written as such that that vessel is not obstructing your free movement. It's still allowing you to go past them in a free way, but you're having to power down. So we're not seeing that code.
It's also causing potential damage, because literally, when we did that, I've only done it once,
Yeah.
trust me, is that we went, we had to hold, my son's disabled, he was flying around, she had to grab him, the boat physically left the water.
We've
And-
never gotten a phone call from you, Jim, so give us a call.
Okay,
We'll help you this summer.
No, and in the one we're talking about is maybe more difficult. This one, the other one, 7025, is much simpler interpretation of the law.
It doesn't fit what you're talking about, Jim. I'm sorry.
If you read it.
Okay, look, I'm gonna shut this
Okay,
down.
yeah,
Yeah, we got
I'm sorry.
We get it.
We'll get to debate somewhere
We'll get,
else.
there you go. Okay, thank you, by the way. Okay, so we're gonna move on. This is item 3, Greens Ferry Boat Launch, parking and a potential action item. Nick, do we need to go into executive session?
I don't think so, Commissioner. I
Okay,
just
go
want to
ahead.
update the commissioners, and thank you, Rod. He's got a picture. I was out yesterday, and I'm sorry to give you the before and afters. So there's been some clearing, Commissioner. You can see that vegetation there. You can say that was yesterday. So, Commissioners, I sent a letter to the homeowner per the board's direction. On December 18th, we didn't receive a response. We sent a certified letter, we sent a second certified letter on 12/18. Finally, I got the gentleman on the phone, Mr. Merrill Otto, nice man, and we had a conversation about the challenges we have at ingress and egress and how his property is being accessed. I did explain, Mr. Otto, that to be a good neighbor, that we would be willing to provide certain things and assist him in working with the highway district to get his own approach, and even potentially construct a temporary, just a gravel approach for him, again, to be neighborly. And he asked me to look into easement. He told me that his realtor had told him that there was in fact an easement. Legal counsel, and Jamila will speak to it, I won't speak on her behalf, but as I understand it, Jamila's opinion is that there is no easement. our county surveyor also confirms similar, and so I wanted to double check that. I did. I responded to Mr. Otto, attempted to, and he stopped returning calls. And so I'm unable to move forward. So it's nothing that we have to solve tomorrow, Commissioners. Again, I want to be a good neighbor, but I do think it's probably time to contemplate having council send a letter that essentially says, in the next 12 months, we would like to close that up. So to give him ample time to do so. There's some property ownership issues in there that I'm not going to speak to. I feel much better if council and our surveyor do. There's some co-ownership. We also have a hold harmless agreement with the highway district, who's part owner in there. So it's a little convoluted, and I don't think I'm the best person to speak to it. So I just want to make sure that we're righteous when we do send a letter, and they can better speak to that. But I'm asking the board for some direction to send a letter to Mr. Otto saying, within the next 12 months, we would like you to get your approach done and take care of this, essentially.
Has he applied for his approach permit yet?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Commissioner, I do have a call into the, to Coastal Highway District Superintendent. We're chasing each other on the phone, but I don't believe that's occurred.
Okay.
Okay.
I want you to see the photos because it appears he may be
Moving in that
moving
direction.
and I hope
Yeah.
that's the case. But if
Yeah.
we find that it's not the case, I'm gonna need some assistance.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so am I. Bill, you okay? So no action from us today?
The action would be to send a letter to Mr. Otto, I would say in the next 60 days. I'd like to work.
I don't know that I can properly represent the county's interest here without the highway district's input because
Yes.
of the way the property was dedicated to the public. Both the lot and the roadway, and so essentially the highway district and the county jointly hold this property in trust for the public.
But saying something to the effect that the county's building a fence in the next 12
Yeah.
months, is that something we still need to?
I think we need
partner?
buy-in
Okay.
from
From
the
the-
highway district.
Okay.
And that would be Susan? Do you work with her?
Yeah,
This is
very
Susan
well.
Weeks.
Okay, so are you all right with contacting
You
her?
want to
and-
contact her?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Susan represents all the highway districts. Okay, good. That it? So we're okay there? For Jamila to be able to do that? Okay,
Yes.
great. So basically, that concludes our last item. I'm going to open it up for public comment. Anything relevant to what we discussed today?
So have we considered banning wake surf boats off the river?
We've considered it.
Are we going there? That's a different question. But have we considered it? Yeah.
Okay, so all the input that you did discuss all the input from the three organizations, that we are lockstep in what we think, should happen on the county waterways. You reviewed all that information, and you either accepted it or rejected it or took some part of it. Is that-
I think so.
So it would be good for us to talk to the sheriff.
Yes.
We won't speak about what we discussed in executive session today, but
Okay.
we're willing to talk to you about whatever you'd like to ask us about.
So should we send you all the data that we have?
You probably have most of it, but you can send me
No,
whatever
we
you
have
guys
a
can.
bunch of new stuff.
Send me whatever you guys would like. We will accept it.
Can we talk to you? Can we?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I talk to
just
him.
can't.
I talk to him all the time. I just,
Got our phone number.
Absolutely.
we just, what I was trying to allude to is I won't discuss what we
Oh,
discussed
yes,
with them in
that's
executive
fine.
session.
The only thing I'll share is somebody made the comment that we probably accomplished more in the last 45 minutes than much
5
longer
years.
than 5 years.
Well,
And
that's a
so-
good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing. And-
That's a good
and
thing.
You guys will be happy,
I think so.
yes.
I think so.
Okay, well then we don't need to harass you anymore.
Wouldn't that be great? That would be
Well,
great for all of us.
And ultimately, yeah, it'd be good for everyone, and hopefully it'll be something that KCSO, that our sheriff can enforce.
Great.
That's the bottom line.
We appreciate your taking the time to do that.
No, you bet. It's a real issue, it's an issue that probably should have been addressed a long time ago, but as they say, better late than never.
Yep.
For sure.
We like that.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
guys.
for
Thanks so much.
your persistence and your patience.
Would you like this back?
How do you get this back?
He's
Well, you can have that.
Fresh-
By the way,
Funny thing.
time is 2:34, meeting adjourned.
Refresh your memory.